my god. Hello, hello. Stan, you're first. Let's go. David, hello. I know, I was doing stuff all day, and then I was like, you know what? Because I wasn't wearing much makeup, and I was like, maybe I'll add like a little bit of color to my lips. We'll add like a little bit, you know? Hello, Louvre, hello, Zen. I literally was actively checking the fucking meme chat while, like, once this started, and I saw most interesting conversation in general, most average conversation, spoiler chat. I want to be in the spoiler chat so bad. It's not fair. I feel so left out. No. Hello, Harsh. Oh, how's everyone's day? Hello, Nigito. How's everyone's day? How's everyone doing? Okay, so we're on chapter 854. I don't know how far we're gonna get today, but we'll see how well we do, you know? See what we do. Hello. Making a comment about how I'm gonna be late. David, you always know just what to say to make me feel so good about myself. Like, I always come into the streams and I'm always like, oh, I'm not feeling that good. And then I get told that I look like a horrible English teacher, and I just feel so much better. Perfect. Thank you, Bullseye. Thank you. It's kind of like a red. It's got like a bit of other color in there. Perfect. Okay, so we're on chapter 854. My dear poet. Oh, I don't want to think about it. I actually, dude, I had a... Okay. Didn't know Bullseye was the fucking fashion police over here. Sorry. Won't straighten my hair again. Never. I will never straighten my hair again. Heard it here first. Really happy you all agree. Love it. Does it accentuate my forehead? Does my straight hair accentuate my forehead? Back to the story. Leonard and just figured out Klein's not dead. Bro. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep it in mind. I'll keep in mind that I can't ever straighten my hair again because it accentuates the 10 head that I have. And I will keep it curly for the rest of my life. Sounds good. Chapter 854, Confession. We're gonna pick up right where we left off. Sounds good. Early morning, 160 Boakland Street. After Klein got out of bed and washed up, he didn't rush to leave the bathroom. He took 4 steps counterclockwise and headed above the gray fog. Dude, I come on here for like, it hasn't even been 5 minutes. And I've already been ripped to shreds. being called a fucking egghead, and saying that I shouldn't ever straighten my hair. Fun fact, if I was to like the back of my head, because I couldn't sleep on my stomach when I was a baby, it's flat. Like my head is shaped, like my head's shaped like this, and then it's just flat on the back, like right here. Yeah, fun fact. Anyway, Klein left to go out of bed and wash up. He didn't rush to leave the bathroom. He took 4 steps counterclockwise and headed above the gray fog. Then he conjured the world Garamond Sparrow and made a fake person play pious. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Stan, you're not supposed to join in on that. Bro, no. All the depth went to your forehead is crazy. But it kind of did. Like, hold up. Stop. That was so bad. That's so bad. I can't. Maybe the straight hair isn't the move. Because if I straighten the hair and then I, like, pull the hair back, it goes. Yeah, it's like. My head is, like, here. And then it's like goes, and then it's just flat. I'm gonna try and get through 10 more chapters today. We'll see how many I get through. Honorable Mr. Fool, please pass on the message to Donitz. Damn. No, don't screenshot that. We don't need to screenshot nothing. Guys, no. I give you guys enough. I give you guys... You know what? You force my hand. You force my hand. You force my hand. You guys are being rude. First off, everybody's being rude in the chat. We haven't even had 10 minutes. You guys... Now you can't bully me. Anyway, this one ain't the Trump hat, buddy. Also, not that I have a Trump hat for anybody that's new. It's a sports hat that they always say is a mega hat. Bully me now. See how it feels. Also get... No! Also get him to be cheerful of the Church of Evernight for the time being. Above the great fog, Donitz, who saw the sun earlier than Backlund. And then... I'm so fucking over you guys. Bro, it hasn't even been 10 minutes, and I'm already fucking over this. Hiding away in the vile sunlight. Lessons will begin in another 15 minutes. Captain said with a treasure hunt must have a sufficiently good grasp on mathematics. This is really such a headache, but it's also something to look forward to. Dog shit. Donitz placed one hand on the knee and he downed a mouthful of beer. At this moment, the gray fog emanated in front of him. The blurry figure that looked down from above appeared as Donitz's ears rounded, with Garamond Sparrow's voice. I'm not putting the hat back on, no. Because you guys have an off-brand Trump hat, and that's probably one of the biggest fucking insults I've ever had anyone say to me. I straightened my hair, put on a bit of lipstick, and just happened to have a big forehead. What about this is bold fashion statements? Information on West Balm. Although we've been there to search for lost ancient treasure and got to know a few tribal natives, that is pretty much it. There won't be much that I can tell about him. This is so troublesome. I'll have to do all sorts of work again. Why does Garamond Sparrow get involved in so many things? Donitz silently grumbled as he vigilantly glanced to his sides. afraid that the madman would suddenly appear. He drew a breath upon considering how he wanted to become stronger. He didn't wish to be of no help when his captain met with danger. Having to shamefully hide at his back, Donnet slapped his face a few times with his free hand before standing up. He immediately left the shadows and found iron, skin, and barrel. He asked them in detail about West Ballam's situation, who he... Where's my fucking... I'm gonna... Since you guys put it up in a... I don't even think I have a ponytail anywhere near me right now. Don't Bro, let me just lock in for the board. Don't tie it back. It shows off too much of the forehead. Bro, that makes the forehead more. No. I think it's just the screen. Cause I never think my forehead is that big. And then sometimes I come here and I'm like, no, like it wraps around. You'd think it was like, you know how like this could wrap around the earth. Will she be suspicious if I directly ask Captain, making her believe that I have a secret and I'm secretly working for someone else, but I have no idea where that fellow Anderson has gone to dog shit. Donitz fell into a dilemma. Mr. Worldwide. He couldn't help but think about something else, recalling Gairman Sparrow's last words. Be careful of the Church of Evernight. Donitz wasn't a fool. He knew that the crazy adventurer... I am reading. I'm locking in. Be careful of the Gairman Sparrow's last words. Be careful of the Church of Evernight. Donitz wasn't a fool. He knew that the matter that the crazy adventurer emphasized was something important. It also meant that he believed that he had a high chance of being an important target of the Church of Evernight. He would be widely pursued by the Red Gloves. Apart from the Church of Evernight, the Church of Storms and the military are targeting me as well. It's said that they have each sent a squad. Donitz thought as his heart palpitated. Soon he revealed a puzzled and bitter look as he muttered to himself, but I haven't done anything. After passing the message about gathering information on West Ballam to Admiral Starr's Catlia, Klein left the area above the Grey Fog and returned to the real world. Like every other day, he had his breakfast and had lessons. After he woke up from his afternoon nap with Richardson's help, he changed into a formal suit of an excursion. He got into the carriage that had already been waiting for him at the door. Head to St. Samuel Cathedral, Klein leaned on the carriage wall as he instructed the carriage driver. He had decided to continue maintaining his identity as Dwayne Dantes. He believed that it was for the best, and he didn't change his former persona. Therefore, he couldn't change the frequency of his trips to St. Samuel Cathedral, nor could it donate less. Besides, this can effectively wipe away any suspicion they have of me. After all, it's hard to imagine that the criminal who infiltrated Channis Gate had stayed behind but would saunter into the cathedral as though nothing had happened. I'll have to thank Emperor Roselle for not plagiarizing criminal psychology. He didn't point out that the intelligent criminals often return to their crime scene to admire their work and the helpless response of others. Klein mumbled inwardly as he took a sip of black tea that Richardson had brewed. After moistening his throat, he glanced at the valet and asked, seemingly casually, "What is your deepest impression of East and West Ballam?" Sitting beside him, Richardson didn't ask why. After some thought, he said, "East Ballam is safer, West Ballam is more chaotic." After giving a simple answer, Richardson turned to look at his employer, only to see Dwayne Dantes with his eyes half closed as though he wanted him to continue. Richardson scratched his ear and deliberated over his words. There's also poverty, hunger, and whip abuse. People from East and West Ballam originally worshipped death, later to do with the perks of believing in their deities like the goddess, Lord of Storms, and the eternal blazing sun, allowing them to boost their status and receive protection from the cathedral. There was a large-scale change of faith. However, as the number of believers increased, that special status was quickly removed. The people of the lower class began worshipping death again in secret. It's more obvious for the more messy West Balham in regards to the point. The descendants of death often receive great deal of support. This is what my father. Whoa. This is what my father of this. This is what my father of mine occasionally mentioned after he was drunk. Pretty sure that was a translation hiccup there. Klein listened in silence as he didn't stop his valet recount, nor did he probe deeper. Soon the carriage arrived outside St. Samuel Cathedral. Klein first took in a sight of the white flying pigeons before entering the prayer hall. He took off his hat and handed it together with his cane to Richardson. He randomly found a seat and looked at the altar in the darkness. He watched the stars and the dark sacred emblem as unease. Embarrassed and lack of confidence arose in him. If he had guessed correctly, ever since he made contact with the holy sword and made the vow, the goddess had likely taken notice of him. Every time he entered the cathedral to pretend like he was praying, it had the feeling like the emperor's new clothes. I wonder what the goddess's opinion on this is, and what position is the church taking. I'll probe first. Klein clasped his hands and held it to his nose, looking as though he was praying seriously. After about 8 minutes, he slowly got up, walked to the donation box, took out 50 pounds, and piously threw it in. After doing that, Klein turned to the confessional along the sides of the hall and entered. Unlike most ancient confessionals, which were big wooden crates with 2 doors, the modern confessional was an independent, spacious compartment that the confessor and the listening bishop were separated by wooden partitions, with each one of them having their seats. Using the dim light, Klein sat on the chair and listened to the bishop say with his mellow voice, "Do you have..." Interesting. Okay. Seats. Using dim lights, Klein sat on the chair. "Do you have something you would like to say? The goddess cares about all her believers." Klein raised his hand and tapped the chest 4 times counterclockwise fashion. "Praise the lady. I wish to confess that 2 days ago the military came to me wishing that I could sell a batch of firearms and cannons in West Balham to add coal to the chaos there. After he said that, the bishop on the other side didn't immediately give him an answer, as though he was alarmed by the arms dealing. He was momentarily unsure as how to organize his words. The confessional instantly ended up being wrapped in an awkward silence. You became frightened just as that. Have you never encountered the confessor as frank as me? If I was to say that I'm currently plotting the murder of a demigod while hiding from the mother tree of desire and the true creator, would you be jumping up?" Klein lampooned as he continued. "I did enjoy the adventurer's life when I was young. I obtained my wealth through metal, blood, and fire, but I'm already sick of that life. I only wish for a peaceful future. I originally wanted to decline the offer, but I'm unable to overcome the greed in my heart. This is sufficiently encountering business, and it helps me to obtaining the firm footing in Backland high society. I confess that I ultimately choose the bustle and chaos." The bishop on the other side finally had a response as he said with a gentle voice, "Don't be afraid, don't waver. You don't have to feel guilt for a certain level of greed, as long as you don't harm the innocent or commit any of the crimes as written in the Bible. Go follow your inner heart and make the choice you wish to make the most. Only this way you can truly understand the teachings, understand the truth of the words. There's no need to put in difficult positions. Remember this, no matter what you do, sincerely being consecrate and penitent is worthy of praise and forgiveness. May the goddess bless you." Praise the lady. Klein drew a crimson moon once again on his chest. His visit to St. Samuel Cathedral was the use of opportunity as a confessional and information, the church of intention, and the engage in arms dealing. He wanted to know their reaction so as to pry into the goddess's attitude towards him. Without saying anything extra, Klein slowly got up and left the confessional. He walked down the aisle and went towards the valet Richardson. At this moment, as he saw a lady sitting in the corner of the prayer hall. She was wearing a hooded black robe with blue eyeshadow and blush. "Dally!" She had quite an uncanny sense of beauty. She was none other than the spirit medium Dally Simone. Dally looked up and similarly noticed Dwayne Dantes. Her expression momentarily turned adrift as though she had fallen asleep while praying and had entered a dream. Klein nodded and her indiscernibly as a polite gesture. Then he took his hat and came from Richardson as he unhurriedly walked out the hall. Dally retracted her gaze as she looked down in the pew in front of her before slowly closing her eyes. Walking out St. Samuel Cathedral, Klein stood up by the side and staircase and paused for 2 seconds. The white pigeon suddenly flew up in the square up ahead, blocking the sights of all who were taking in the scene. Less than 30 minutes later, in the basement, Leonard heard that Dwayne Dantes, who had previously been investigated, was about to cooperate with the officials. He was going to be a merchant who would sell arms to West Balham. What is he trying to do? Leonard frowned little by little, completely at a loss for what was the underlying monster's thoughts were. Chapter 8:55. As he returned from St. Samuel Cathedral to 160 Beauchamp Street, Klein saw the white-gloved butler. Walter walked up to him. Sir, someone delivered a name card. He said that this was his employer's wishes to visit you from 4 to 5, Walter said with a staid expression. I got it. Klein tried figuring out who the visitor was, but he had no clue. He nodded gently and said, "Who's his employer?" Walter darted his gaze around and saw that the other servants were rather far away. He replied, Baron Sandress. Baron Sandress, the millionaire tycoon who obtained his aristocratic title with the help of the Conservative Party and Duke Negan, and is also one of the most famous bankers and entrepreneurs in the kingdom. I previously helped Mary purchase the Coin Company shares, and competitor happened to be him and his friends. He's visiting me personally for that matter. Its only transaction worth is £13,000. It shouldn't be something that requires him to go this far. As Klein's mind raced, he walked to the staircase and led to the second floor. Walter walked half a step behind him and said, "Sir, if you don't wish to meet Baron Sandress, I'll inform him that you got caught up at St. Samuel Cathedral, listening to the bishop's preachings, and might return very late." In between the lines, the butler was saying that Baron Sandress was a believer of the Lord of Storms. Ew. It was impossible for him to head directly to St. Samuel Cathedral to seek him out. Klein smiled before gently saying, "This is a noble who has immense influence in the banking industry. I'll definitely come across him in the future, so I have to meet him. Arrange the meeting to be in a small living room on the second floor where there's the most sunlight." According to what Klein knew, Baron Sandress was the third largest shareholder of Backland Bank and the largest shareholder of Soville People's Bank. In Lowen Kingdom's banking industry, he was definitely one of the few people with the greatest influence. Yes, sir. Walter didn't nag on. At 4:10, Klein met the visitor who often appeared on the papers in predetermined living room. The only thing that was different from and deviated from his expectation was that Backland turned cloudy after 3. The weather had turned dark and began drizzling and didn't bring out the bright and warm sunshine. Baron Sandress was identical to how he looked on the papers. He had black hair mixed with some white hair that was nearly combed backwards, revealing his broad forehead and receding hairline. His face was rather round, but it lacked the flesh needed to support it. His cheekbones were rather high, and his wrinkles were obvious. Unlike most Lowanese his age, Baron Sandress didn't have any facial hair. He was clean-shaven, and his light blue eyes were nearly colorless. Beside him were a valet and bodyguard. They were the kind of people that didn't attract much attention. The former's greatest characteristic was his thin hair, while the latter was a short hair, and if you didn't count the thick beard and reached down from his ears. "Good afternoon, Lord Sandress. My honor to have you here as a guest." Klein held his hand in his chest and he bowed. Usually, a host would mostly lean their bodies forward to reach out the right hand for a handshake when greeting a guest. But at this moment, he was front of the nobles, thus requiring him to be more courteous. Baron Sandress nodded gently as he smiled in response. You're being polite. I should have visited you a long time ago. Dwayne Dantes is an experienced gentleman who has known much about the southern continent. After exchanging some pleasantries, the two took their seats and the valets and bodyguards seated by their side. Klein was just about to say something when Baron Sandress said with a gentle tone, Dantes, I'm really impressed with the people like you. Not everyone can obtain riches from the chaos of the southern continent. This requires plenty of guts and the courage to face adversity, as well as the stunning judgment. Back when I was facing bankruptcy, I had entertained the idea of starting anew in the southern continent, but unfortunately, I'm not a brave man. Although Baron Sandress later became a noble, he wasn't a commoner in the true sense of the word. His great-grandfather and grandfather had benefited from the development of the colonies, earning them plenty of money from the sea trade. They were rather successful merchants. As for their father, As for his father, he had invested in industries, building up a reputation and acquiring 7 factories. When it came to his generation, it blitzed into the developing bank industry and his sizable wealth becoming one of the earliest millionaires in Lowen. During this process, Baron Sandress had suffered 3 failures, but he overcame them one after another. The most harrowing incident was when the Solville People's Bank he founded suffered from a reputation crisis. A bank run happened, nearly bankrupting him. He keeps chatting about the experiences in the southern continent. He's hinting to me that he has already discovered the problem with my background and is using it as a warning. He probably never expected that the southern continent experience he kept repeating is all fake. Klein scoffed inwardly, but he replied with a look of absolute normal. This isn't contagious, but rashness. Most people who head to the southern continent do have a spirit of adventure, but that's all they have. Without warning for Baron Sandress to continue, he smiled and said, I nearly hired Mr. Reebok some time ago in my butler. He said that there was an excellent employer. Baron Sandress listened in silence before sighing. That is something that fills me with regret. Back then, I was very sincere in hoping that Reebok could continue being my butler, but he couldn't overcome the conflict within our positions. Upon saying that, Sandress looked at the handsome and elegant Dwayne Dantes, picked up the black tea, and had being served by the servant and took a sip. I'm also sincerely hope that we can be friends. I hope you can transfer the coin company's 3% to me. Fucking knew it. There's only one reason he's coming over. I will give you an offer you can't resist. Here it comes. But I have a contract with Miss Mary. Klein fell silent for 2 seconds and said with a smiling sigh, I deeply value my trustworthiness. Upon hearing such an answer, Sandress didn't show any obvious anger. He smiled, curious and surprised. Aren't you going to listen to my offer? Klein deliberately spread out his hands with a weary smile. I'm afraid I will find it irresistible. Sandress immediately laughed and slowly stood up. Yours harmonious as they say. At the time, you and your firm will have the rumors failed to mention. Firm will have the rumor. You have a firm will, there it is, that the rumors failed to mention. He looked at his bodyguards and valet before saying with Dwayne Dantes with a smile, being a partner with you was definitely better than being a competitor. All right, it's time for I to leave. There are many things that require my attention. Is this sincere praise or the veiled threat? Klein wasn't a specter. He wasn't able to interpret the subtitles. All he could do was shamelessly reply. Likewise, I look forward to having the opportunity to cooperate with you in the other domains, Lord Sandress. Dressed in a formal suit and a black tie, Baron Sandress smiled and nodded without saying another word. He was led up by the main door, and Dwayne Dantes and his butler and valet. As he watched the luxurious carriage disappear into the distance, Butler Walter suddenly said, Sir, should I hire some temporary bodyguards? Klein nearly failed to understand his butler. Seeing his employer's expression remain unperturbed, Walter added, At times, competition in business can endanger one's personal safety. Mr. Butler also noticed that the veiled threats by Baron Sandress. Klein curled the corners of his lips and said, I'm not too worried because this is Backlands, because my name is known at the Church of Evernight, because I'm about to cooperate with the military. Therefore, I'm not afraid of suffering any form of retaliation in beyond our domain, and I'm not afraid that the matters will develop like with the Intis ambassador. Besides, Baron Sandress is a successful man with assassin power. He wouldn't be too rash, Klein thought inwardly. When Walter attempted to continue, Klein chuckled and said, However, being careful is forever a good habit. You can hire 2 bodyguards, let them secretly provide me with protection. Try not to have them be discovered by the servant at home. Yes, sir. Walter Walter immediately replied. Klein thought for a moment and said, make your trip to the Member of Parliament Match's place, invite him to the dinners and into Sorenzo restaurant tomorrow along with the wife and daughter. If they have a prior commitment, we can postpone to another day. He planned on informing Match that he had planned on taking the military's test and completing a small arms deal. The most convenient method was to visit Match at his residence and mention it in passing, but considering how there might be a demigod of the marauder pathway around Hazel, any close contact might result in the aura of the gray fog on him being detected. Therefore, Klein changed his plans and decided to have the venue be at the restaurant. This way, based on his judgment, the demigod which had failed to parasitize Hazel was unlikely to accompany her. Shio hid Shio's POV. Shio hid in the shadows of the woods as she watched a brown carriage slowly drive past, turn into a particular street in Empress Borough. There was obvious coat of arms on the carriage. It was mainly a flower with 2 rings. They belonged to the captain of the Lowen Kingdom's royal guard, Viscount Stratford. Realizing that she had made 0 discoveries, she gloomily left her hiding spot and took a nearby public carriage. She returned straight to the Backland Bridge area and walked out Eastborough. Upon coming to the Darby Street's bar, Shio easily walked to the bar counter and drunkenly avoided her. She directly asked the bartender who was wiping. Actually, you know what? Here's the thing. I actually don't mind Shio. I feel like she's kind of annoying, and she kind of, like, I don't really care too much of her plot, but at the same time, like, I don't actually mind her. I just think she's a little annoying sometimes, and, like, a little, like, not super dynamic of a character, but yeah, I don't mind her. I take the "you" back. The bartender immediately smiled. Yes, Butler Walter, who previously offered a £200 bounty for a few cheats, had offered a new job. It's very simple. Secretly protect his employer for a few days. The payment will be discussed face to face. It will definitely be a handsome reward. He was very pleased with your efficiency during the last mission. He requested that he give you priority. How about it? Are you interested? I'm going to read that after. Shio had a rather deep impression of the butler and his employer because they had spent £200 to seek out cheats who had only scammed £1,000 of cloth. Very generous, and he's quick to pay. Shio didn't sigh, recalled, no, where did it go? Come back, my book's gone, come back. Okay, very generous and he's quick to pay. Shio did a slight recall before nodding and saying, all right. I wonder how many chapters I can get through today. I did switch up on Forza a while ago. Yeah. I used to not like her. She used to not be, like, one of my favorites. And then I was like, you know what? She ain't bad. She's not the worst. Good Lord. I don't even want to read this, David. I don't even want to read that. Can't win. Can't win anywhere. Just getting bullied all around. Loving Susie. Loving Susie always. Okay, chapter 856. Bodyguards arrive. In the apartment in Cherry... We'll take a quick... I said yesterday that I want to do the Forest cosplay really well. And I just have bills coming out in the next little bit. And I'm also busy because I have to, like, go drive across Canada at the end of the month. So probably, I would say end of March. End of March, beginning of April. And then I'll get all the stuff. I'll do a really good Forest cosplay. And we'll leave it there. Not stalling, giving you an exact time frame of when it's going to happen. Just can't do it right now. But we'll do it. Also, how do you even come up with this, David? Like, where did you even... Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. They called her that because her forehead was so tall. Humpty Dumpty had a great stall. She stared at a word like cat and scratched her big head perplexedly. No, I can't even read it. Is that a dog or a mat? I just can't see. She'd stall and stare for all to pity. The queen of the short yellow bus ride, with vast empty space she kept inside. Tell a story, the children cried. She blinked. Goldie who never tried. Chat would explain with patience and grace every simple word, time and place. Chat was wiser at a much faster pace, while Humpty just stared into space. Anyway, chapter 856, Bodyguards arrive. In an apartment in Cherrywood Borough, just as Shio entered, she caught the scent of fried food. She could... How did you even come up with that, dude? Honestly, it hurt, but I can't be mad about it because it was good. Like, yeah, dare I say it? Bars. I have to say that was actually really good. So, would there be anyone else? Forrest peeked her head out from the kitchen and asked with a smile. Shio put down the papers in her hand, half surprised and half grumbling. Do you still remember how long it's been since you stepped into the kitchen? Making toast in the morning doesn't count. Forrest returned to the kitchen, leaving only her voice behind. I choose the food outside because they're better, and now the surrounding streets don't have any good fried chicken. I suddenly have cravings for it. When it comes to Intis cuisine, I like it the most. Shio walked to the kitchen and leaned against the door, framed it as she watched Forrest busily prepare dinner. She deliberated and said, I received a job, £100 a day, ranging from 3 to 5 days, but I need another helper. Weren't you previously lacking money? Why don't we do it together? Ah, yes. Sharing finances, as good friends do. Yeah. Actually, my financial situation has improved. However, a mission that pays £50 a day isn't bad. I'll save up as much as I can. There will be plenty of places that require me to spend money in the future. As Forrest watched her oil-filled pot, she asked, what kind of job is it? Shio had already calculated how much she could receive. Shio combed her coarse blonde hair and said, secretly protect a tycoon named Dwayne Dantes. Oh my god. Bro. I love how everybody's like just connected. What did he encounter? Will it be very dangerous? Forrest asked cautiously. Shio recalled and said apparently there's some kind of business conflict and his competitors threatened him. That isn't anything dangerous, but you are aware the powerful Beyonder and Backlund wouldn't dare to take any risks, as it's easy to expose themselves, causing them to be targeted by Nighthawks and mandated punishers. Perhaps the other party is a lunatic. You can't rule that out. While retorting, Forrest naturally thought of the world Gammon Sparrow. This gentleman was a lunatic who dared to pull off a major upsets in Backlund. She paused and scooped up the pieces of fried chicken. Since you've already accepted the mission and I have nothing coming up recently, let's do it together. It's good too. We will be protecting him in secret so no one will discover that I'm a bodyguard. Otherwise, I'll have no way of participating in those literature saloons. Actually, I can tell that I'm experiencing life and gathering material. My next novel will be about a female bodyguard and her male employer. She was already used to Forrest's penchant for learning her thoughts and wandering. She scrunched up her nose and said, let's head over after dinner. 160 Boakland Street. Glenn set up a ritual in the master bedroom's bathroom and headed above the grey fog. He planned on handling some random matters before the bodyguards hired by Butler Walter came. It wouldn't be convenient for him to do them in the coming days. And among these random matters, the most important task was to confirm the situation with creeping hunger. Sitting behind the seat belonging to the fool, Klein made a human-skinned glove fly out from the junk pile. After a series of divinations, he discovered that creeping hunger was rather stubborn this time. None of the negative side effects had changed. It's a result of Mr. A's corruption, so it's absolutely not giving up the praise of the true creator. The corners of Klein's mouth twitched as he seriously considered the situation the matter. Find another way to threaten it? No. How can I call it threatening under the premise of being proactive? I'll be engaging in friendly communication with it. Klein ripped the corners of his long molten table and muttered silently, as he'll be writing to Mr. Azek later anyway. I can also mention in passing about creeping hunger's seal is no longer in effect. I can also bring up some mushrooms along with me. No, that won't work. Although it will stop creeping hunger from praising the true creator, it will make it unstable. I'll get a few of the original mutated mushrooms to see Frank and see if there are any effects. After determining his thoughts process, Klein threw Azek's copper whistle and adventurer harmonica through the door of sacrifice and bestowment before returning to the real world. He packed up the ritual items and wiped away any trace of the ritual. After leaving the bathroom, Klein walked to the study desk, taking out the fountain pen, and asked him to deliberate over the things he said. Dear Mr. Azek, it's been a while since I've written to you. I wonder how you've been recently. Due to certain unforeseen circumstances, your seal on creeping hunger is no longer effective. Can you give me the corresponding methods? I wish to apply the seal once again. Have you heard of creatures known as spirit world plunderers? What level are they, and what kinds of characteristics do you have? What are they usually active in? I might be heading to the southern continent in the near future. I obtain any new information on death. I'll write to you as soon as possible. To be honest, haven't had mushrooms in a while. Have not had mushrooms in a hot minute. Don't know the next time I will have mushrooms. I have them in my fridge. Don't know if I'm ever going to eat them. Putting down the fountain pen and reading it twice, Klein folded up the letter and blew a copper whistle. Suddenly, the white bones spewed out from the floor, gushing out like a fountain pen in midair, forming a giant skeleton. That was nearly 4 meters tall. No, dude, frankly, absolutely delicious. He'd be able to whip up something good. I know. Azek really is like a little mentor father figure for Klein. I like it. He's like, hey, here's what I did today. Just letting you know. Just checking in. Letting you know I'm still alive. I didn't say Frank Lee is delicious. I said the food he would make would be delicious. You know? Maybe also Frank Lee. I don't know. We can give it a shot. Knowing him, he probably will turn himself into like a fucking cow or something like that. But I feel like if he was... I feel like, bro, could you imagine Frank Lee on MasterChef? He would win the whole game. Whole show. They'd be bringing him back every single season. The dried mushrooms you provided were pretty good. Do you still have more? Oh, whoa. The skeleton messenger didn't stay, and it immediately disintegrated, pouring down the waterfall rapidly vanishing. Klein silently heaved a sigh of relief and retracted his gaze and continued writing a letter to Frank. The dried mushrooms you provided were pretty good. Do you still have more? He's like a drug addict. He's like, do you have more? I need some. Do you find the idea of previously mentioned viable if you encounter the difficulties during the research? Process you can write to me. Process you can write to me. After folding the letter, Klein blew it into the adventurer's harmonica and saw Miss Messenger Burnett Tinker appear by the side. She still lacked the head, as she wore a complicated black dress while holding 4 beautiful blonde red-eyed heads. Can you lock onto Frank Lee? Klein asked rather confidently. After all, Miss Messenger was unlike ordinary messengers. She was a spirit world creature at the demigod level. Under normal circumstances, a messenger could only locate the counter or the person who had the summoning ritual. As for the latter, there was limitations once a ritual was too far away. The messenger wouldn't be able to find them. Renette Tinker's four heads turned in unison and looked at Klein. Yes, is that man who wants to plant everything, right? That is him. That's him. That's our Frank Lee. Goat Lee in the house. What did Frank do to leave such an impression on Miss Messenger? Everything right. Back when I replied, she even said that she hoped that he wasn't dead. Klein, nodded seriously. Bro, I don't know. The word forehead just kind of gets me, you know? I feel like Isaac would be a good father. I mean, he's had, like, a bunch of kids. But I feel like he'd be a good father to, like, my kids. He might even be a good father to me. Who knows? Maybe he'll adopt me. What did Renette Tinker's foreheads spoke one after another? Can locate. I labeled him. Klein turned to Gabe, nearly forgetting his motives. Poor Frank, no, the great and powerful Frank. He actually got Miss Messenger to specially label him. May the goddess watch over him. Klein silently exhaled and handed the letter to Renette Tinker. Please hand it to Frank. He will pay you the gold coin. One of the heads of Renette Tinker's hand opened its mouth and bit down on the letter. Then it directly entered the spirit world, unable to sense again. After dealing with these matters, Klein left the copper whistle and harmonica on him. He went downstairs to have dinner. Midway, Walter entered and whispered into Dwayne Dantes. Shut the fuck up, Dara. Ear, and the bodyguards have arrived. It's that mess. Shio. And her friends from before. I'll arrange for them to secretly provide the protection. Miss Shio and her friends. Don't tell me it's Miss Magician. Klein momentarily at a loss for words. Yeah, because when I giggle, I kind of lock out of reading, and then I'm like, oh, I'll go check chat. His spirituality doesn't sense that someone had infiltrated his house. However, this was very normal since it wasn't time for most people to sleep for the night. When it was the period of time, the abnormalities became rather obvious. I lost where I was for a second there. Therefore, unless Klein specially used his spirituality to leave unpredictable marks at key spots, or if it was an intruder had plenty of ill intentions towards him, he would find it difficult to notice them. In a bedroom on a third floor, Shio and Forrest each took out a window. Through the glass, they looked down at the garden. This is my dream house. When I have enough money, I'll buy this house just like with the scenic area. No, I'll still choose Backland. There are more delicacies here, and it's more convenient, Forrest said sincerely. With that said, she sighed inwardly. Fortunately, I have a curse of the full moon. I can only continue improving myself. Otherwise, I'd have kept a house instead of selling it for cash. Shio traced her friend's gaze and looked outside, whispering, I live in such a residence when I was little. Forrest stole a glance at Shio as she had no idea what to say. She changed topics. How should we provide him with protection? Shio retracted her gaze. When Dwayne Dantes is home and without guesses, we'll just hide in the room and watch surroundings to prevent anyone from infiltrating. When there are guests, we'll head to the adjacent room and keep the close attention to any developers. We'll open the door at any moment to save him. If Mr. Dwayne Dantes were to head out, the butler will inform us ahead of time. I'll hide underneath the carriage to protect him while you follow on another carriage. Shio, you're becoming more and more professional. Forrest seriously praised her before chuckling. I saw Mr. Dwayne Dantes' portrait just now. If you had told me that the danger arose because of a business conflict, I would have suspected that the problem arose because of love. Before Forrest finished her sentence, she suddenly saw a carriage stop outside the compound. Following that, a few policemen in black and white checkered uniforms got out of the carriage. What's happening? She looked at her friend and found Shio looking equally puzzled. Inside the living room, on the second floor, Klein met with 4 officers. Mr. Dwayne Dantes, do you know Mr. Cuaron? Curion? Dude, I can't do it. Somebody's got to do it for me. I don't know why I'm struggling so much with this. I think it's because there's too many vowels. It's not working for me. I can't even. Surion. Thank you, Mr. C. That's what I'm gonna. Klein tried recalling and remembering that it was a gentleman who had sold him the coin company's shares. Yes, what happened to him? Klein asked calmly. The officer that led the team replied in a rather polite manner. He committed suicide. Oh. In addition, he left behind a will accusing you of forcing him to sell the shares and torturing him using all kinds of unhanded means, causing him to suffer from severe depression. And his family has provided proof regarding the contents of his will. Bro. Klein's getting slandered. Defamation. They're going after my boy. Klein, no. I get how he feels, because I, too, have false accusations and claims made of my name. This is insane. Bro, David, you might have a new client here. Are we gonna get lawyer Jurgen back? Is he gonna come back? Because Klein's gonna need a lawyer. That'd be super fun if lawyer Jurgen came back. No, to be fair, here's the thing. I never, ever, we don't need to believe that, no, mine are fake, you know? Just slanderous words against me. Mr. C committed suicide. He will accuse me of forcing him to sell the shares. His family can even provide evidence. As Klein listened to the officer's description, he digested the relevant information and produced questions in his mind. After he understood the situation, his first reaction was Baron Sandress has taken action. This powerful banker didn't hesitate to carry out his follow-up action against me after failing to cooperate with me. Bro, it was an inside job. This is crazy. Oh my god. Klein, run away. Switch personas. Quick. After he understood the situation, his first reaction was Baron Sandress had taken action. This powerful banker didn't hesitate to carry out any of the following actions against me. After failing to cooperate with me, treating me as an enemy, he didn't hold back. Furthermore, he has clearly gathered enough information to know that Dwayne Dantes is involved with the Church of the Evernight in a Member of Parliament match and the factions backing him. If he were to directly deal with me, it would be easily attract unwanted trouble. Therefore, he chose to strike at another end of the transaction, Mr. C. This will be more indirect and safer, but it would be equally treacherous and ruthless. This is an utter disregard of an ordinary person's life. Klein suddenly recalled the innocent people who collapsed during the Great Smog of Backlund. He couldn't help but feel a sense of rage surge. Within him as he bubbled to the surface of ice cold. Klein used his clan powers to control his facial expressions, making him look even more surprised as he asked, seemingly finding the situation incomprehensible. Are you certain you aren't joking? The lead officer nodded solemnly. If we didn't have sufficient clues to support it, we would disturb a gentleman like you. Mr. Dwayne Dantes, I'll have to trouble you to follow us to the station for further investigation. Jesus. Oh, also, this is going to be the last chapter. This is going to be the last chapter, and then we're all done for tonight. It's just going to be it'll be a little over an hour tonight. Despite looking unperturbed, Klein's mind was racing just as he was about to say something. He suddenly noticed something illogical. Should I read longer? Am I supposed to... Okay, should I keep going? Because I can't keep going if I should. I was just going to stop here. Okay, then I'll keep going. Vince Barron's identity, status, and social connections, he will have at least a few dozen effective means to deal with the foreign tycoon that just came to Backland 2 months ago. There's no need to go this far. After a member of high society who will more or less understand or be connected to the Beyonder powers, he knows that there are any kinds of indestructible means and pursue the true murderer. Unless he's completely confident, taking the risk of freeing someone for murder is definitely the worst choice. If Sandress were to use his authority to suppress the investigations of the official Beyonders, it would definitely be more effective than simpler to employ other means. If he temporarily isn't aware that I'm about to work with the military, he definitely is aware that the connection with the Church of Evernight and Member of Parliament match. He wouldn't do anything in such a simple and brazen matter. Most importantly, even if he's the kind of murderer who would kill for 3% shares, why didn't he do it earlier? He could have held Mr. C at gunpoint early on, resolving the matter without causing any fuss. Klein glanced at the officers in front of him while in thought without immediately giving an answer. I think so. I think there's only like 100 chapters left. There's not that many, I don't think. And in the adjacent room, Miss Fours and Shio were leaning against the wall, using the latter's ability to open a small door. They didn't miss any parts of the entire conversation. What do we do? If the police officer want to arrest him, do we still provide protection? Fours, who lacked experience of the bounty hunter, hurriedly suppressed her voice as she asked her friend. She never expected that the business conflict would result in a case of murder or suspicion framing the enemy she had imagined had transformed into infiltrating murderous bandits into the police officer. She was momentarily unsure of what to do. Shio was also in a dilemma. Usually a bodyguard will only deal with illegal encroaches, but they have given a sufficiently sizable remuneration. Fours was surprised and amused at the response that she asked. If he really is imprisoned, are you thinking of breaking him out of jail? Let's put aside the problem of danger. That way you too would be wanted. And if you won't be able to be a bounty hunter again when the time comes, if you plan on fleeing elsewhere with this gentleman. As she spoke, Fours, who had already come up with the story, discovered that Dwayne Dantes had a response. This elegant gentleman with white sideburns turned to look at Walter and said with a calm and gentle voice, 2 matters. First, visit Baron Sandress and tell him that someone is trying to frame him. Walter revealed a rare look of surprise and confusion, finding his employer's instructions incomprehensible. From this point of view, the matter was highly likely to be machinated by Baron Sandress at this pointless visiting him, as it would only result in mockery. Klein smiled. He was a guest recently, and he had threatened me for the shares. Following that, Mr. C met with his demise. I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't be under suspicion. Therefore, I believe that it's necessary to warn him. This is what a great gentleman should do. The officers were slightly perturbed by what was said. They had the inexplicable feeling that the matter was more complicated than they had imagined. As for Walter, he had somewhat enlightened as he replied, "Yes, sir, I'll immediately visit Baron Sandress and inform him, your friends, and his of this matter. This way, if this wasn't done by Baron Sandress, all subsequent trouble would be dealt with by him. If he were the mastermind behind this, being involved him in the name of kindly warning him and spreading the news, it could create sufficient pressure from public opinion. It would make it easier for Member of Parliament Match and company to rescue him. Smart. A good butler replies help. Our good butler really helps." Klein silently praised him and continued, "Second, please call for my lawyer and hand him this tiny inconvenience." After instructing the butler and valet, Klein looked at the few officers in front of him. To be honest, I don't even know what the fuck the actual got it. You know, it just is what it is, to be honest. Alright, I'll follow you back to the station. I won't make things very difficult for you. Pognant. Isn't it pognant? However, I wouldn't answer any of your questions before my lawyer arrives. The leading officer is poignant? 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 Well, I'm gonna stay silent now. I'm just gonna stop. Also, hello, welcome. You came at a very not awesome time. The leading officer heaved a sigh of relief as he said with a nod, "Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Dantes." Bro, why is... Wait. Say it again. Say it again. Say it again for the people in the back. Say it again for everybody in chat. Daryl, why is your hair so what? Elegant? Thank you. Thank you. Because I did it today. I made it look pretty. That's why. Thank you for the compliment. Everybody's been shitting on... What did you say? I can be elegant. I can be pretty. Thanks, guys. Yep. Awesome. Hi, Merlin. The leading... At this moment in adjacent room, Forrest hurriedly said, "Are we following?" "Yes, I'll hide underneath the carriage now and follow it to the station. We can't be certain that those police..." That actually is really funny. Yeah, Merlin, this was my final chapter, and then they bullied me, and now I'm reading more. Thanks, Stan. Don't think I don't remember the comment you made earlier. But I do appreciate the one you just made now. Real one. Shio replied cautiously. She paused, seizing the moment, and asked, "What else do you wish for?" What did I say? What else do you wish for? Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Dude, another 50. Bro, you make my heart sing. Let's go. Thank you very much. I know, I'm like, at this point, I'm like, between everyone, I was like, I don't know if there is enough people. I really don't know. I don't know if there's enough people for it. But it is good. No, thank you so much. Is it because I've done nothing but get bullied this stream? That's okay. There you go, yeah. For those that come after, they'll be able to get one, or however it works with it, but it'll be good. Bro, first genuine smile I've had all stream. Getting called an egg. Saying that my forehead's flat. Or my forehead's big and my head's flat. Crazy. At this moment in the adjacent room, Forrest hurriedly said, "Are we following?" "Yes. I'll hide underneath the carriage and we'll follow it to the station. We can't be certain that those police officers are real ones." Shio replied rather cautiously. She paused, seizing the moment, and asked, "What else do you wish to say?" Forrest thought for a moment and how do I say it now? Poignantly said, "Nobles and tycoons are truly terrifying." This is true. This is true. Shio was taken aback. She didn't speak further as she walked to the window, supporting herself with one hand. She nimbly... Poignant. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Also, I really like this volume. I don't know why you guys don't like it. Okay, here's the thing. This volume is it's very, not dragged out. It's like, there's a lot of like, obviously I haven't read like volume 5 to 8, but the scenes that are in this volume with like the whole Leonard and Klein scene that we just had, the Foggytown scene, Alger and Klein going to the island, like, I might like this one more than volume 3, to be totally honest. This second half is really good. It's like, it's right after we get like Klein and Leonard going to the island and like getting the Beyonder characteristics and everything. Right after that, I'm like, this book is so good. Will I ever start from volume 1? I won't start from volume 1 again, because I've already read so much of it. However, I think I have, on the lives, I think it's the end of volume 2, all of volume 3, and all of volume 4. So I think the only ones I didn't record would have been volume 1 and volume 2, but I have the reviews and reactions from those ones on TikTok, so there's at least that. That's all I kind of got for those. And also, hello, welcome. That's the thing, is like, in volume, like the other ones, the general like kind of underlying story of like what was going on in the volume, this one's a little bit more dull, like not dull, but it's just like, it's more tame than especially like volume 3 in my opinion, and volume 2. But the scenes that happen honestly make it good. Really, really good. Yeah. It was slower in the beginning. Yeah, I think it definitely was slower in the beginning, but it definitely picks up after that. But here's also the other thing. I also read volume 3 out loud. And I might have just learned to read properly over the time of doing that. I found this one was easier to just like read through. Like I could just read through it and go through it. Even I know it is a bit like smaller, but yeah. So I don't know, we'll see. Only at the police station, Klein was directly brought to an interrogation room. However, he didn't give a response. Regardless of what the officer said, only when his lawyer arrived did he give an account. He said that he had only met Mr. C once. He also mentioned that the negotiations of the share purchase was completely handled by a professional team, hence he didn't personally involve himself in it. Yeah. Like and I've said this before, my least favorite volume so far is volume 2, and I would still give it like a solid, probably 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. And like that would be it again. Bro, I'm never not catching strays from chat. He repeated his statement saying that he was unaware of anything else. This left the interrogator at a loss until he was called out to the room. After a while from the officer's responsibility, the recording of the statement walked in and said, "All right, you may leave. A gentleman with an honorable status has vouched for you and paid for your bail." Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Klein didn't immediately stand up and he continued, sitting in the chair. He looked up and asked, "Who is it?" The officer said in a respectful tone, "Baron Sandress." Klein immediately revealed a smile as he slowly got up and left the interrogation room before his lawyer, before meeting up with the butler and valet. At the entrance to the police station, he met Baron Sandress once again. At this powerful banker's hair was neatly combed back with silver and black interweaving with each other. In beside him was a valet and his bearded bodyguard. "Thank you for your warning, Dantes. Few people would be so calm and sharp when they encounter such a sudden turn of events." Sandress smiled as he took 2 steps forward, reached out his palm, and shook Klein's hand. Klein replied with a smile, "I was simply trusting your character." Sandress obviously didn't believe such service. He found it an excuse and with his bodyguard boarded Dwayne Dantes' carriage. As for the valet, he sent him to the luxurious carriage to instruct the carriage driver to follow behind. As parasol trees flew past outside the carriage window, Sandress spoke first. Dantes, how did you come to such a judgment? Klein glanced at his butler valet beside him and chuckled. 2 points. First, I believe that you will have a better solution. You wouldn't do something this violent. Sanders drank a mouthful of wine in the carriage as he chuckled. Indeed. The corners of Klein's mouth twitched as he said, I'm very curious as to what kind of method you would employ. He had only asked in passing with an extravagant hope of obtaining an answer. However, Sanders chuckled and said, with matters developing this far, I didn't matter if I tell you. It's very simple. Isn't your goal to enter high society? I plan to hire women of different ages. They will accuse you on different social occasions that you toyed with their feelings and bodies, but refuse to be responsible for your actions. If necessary, I'll find a few toddling children to clasp you around the legs, calling you a PA. Perhaps I might get some civilians to accuse you of seducing their wives and destroying their marriage. This is low in a rather conservative place. No one would wish to have such a person as a friend. Likewise, the Church of Evernight, who values marriage and family, will also distance themselves from you. Bro, I think I would just rather be accused of murder. To be totally honest, I think I would just rather be accused of murder. That's crazy. That's some mastermind shit right there. Okay. It will be difficult to clear the air on such matters, yet it would be a big deal. No, actually. Fucking actually. God. Also, with everything that's going on, this chapter is hitting a little too close to home, and I'm feeling like they would use their resources to help do an investigation for you. By the time you eventually found a loophole, your image would be hardened and known by all. How many people do you think will believe your explanations? You're just a newcomer and have yet to build a reputation. You aren't that trustworthy. Of course, it is willing to accept my conditions. I'd stake my reputation for you. That will be the first step. Now, it wouldn't happen. Klein was almost stunned by what he had heard. Same. Actually fucking same. The way I would run out of that carriage, because I'm like, cool, you're a fucking sociopath. You're psychotic. You think Garen Sparrow's crazy? You have not seen nothing. Klein was almost stunned by what he heard. He found himself too inexperienced compared to the seasoned banker who had established a commercial empire for himself. I believe I should thank you, he replied with an unfazed smile. Second, if you really wanted the 3% shares, I wouldn't be a match when it comes to your wealth. It would ultimately be better to force Mr. C rather than killing him after the sale is completed. Sandress raised his right hand and pressed his fingers to the corner of his forehead as he chuckled. No, you're mistaken. I was bent on obtaining the 3% shares. However, you're right about one thing. I did prepare an irresistible offer for C, but he suddenly made a decision and completed the deal with you at an extremely fast speed. It caught me by surprise. Klein narrowed his eyes suddenly as he suddenly fell silent. Returning to 160 Boakland Street, Shio circled the area and entered the third floor again. Seeing Fours, who had easily entered by using the door opening. How is it? Nothing happened, right? Fours, who had only followed from a distance, asked cautiously. Shio shook her head and silently wouldn't matter. No, she then revealed a poignant no, I'm saying it wrong again. Expression. Nobles and tycoons are truly terrifying. This is referring to Mark Twain's Running for Governor, a common piece of literature taught in Chinese middle school students. Crazy. No, actually. Bro, traumatizing me. But that's also, like, maybe, like, one of the reasons why I like it is because I'm like, Cuttlefish doesn't shy away from writing about stuff like that. Which, I mean, it's good to, you know, always keep it front center because it does happen. But every time I read it, sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, this is where we're going. Yeah. That guy was actually an evil mastermind. That was a crazy ploy. On the tiny balcony of the master bedroom, Klein stood behind the railing in the form of Dwayne Dantes. He silently watched Baron Sandress' luxury carriage department. In mind, he was still resonating with the conversation he had just had. He believed that there had been a secret ploy behind the acquiring coin company shares from the very beginning. According to Sandress, although the coin company has great potential and bright prospects, its current value is only limited to Backland. Its constrained by many contradictions, making it not worthy for a powerful banker to place such great importance on it, that he had to take on a stance of being hell-bent on acquiring it. After all, even if he didn't succeed, it would only be the difference in monetary profit. I wouldn't result in any losses. For the seller, it's very normal to be under external stress and sell the shares for cash. It's also very normal for him to be unwilling to see money bags. Baron Sandress from the Conservative Party, but herein lies the problem as a businessman faced with a deal that isn't considered important. The politician inclinations are something to be considered when prices are very similar. There's no reason to reject the possibility of receiving an extremely high premium, yet he had deliberately rushed to close the deal with Dwayne Dantes before Sandress could make his final offer. It's as if he had a grudge with money or views, the Conservative Party with extreme prejudice, and it doesn't match the current political climate. The Lowland Kingdom's internal politics hadn't reached such a splintered state. From the looks of it, someone is forcing Sandress to do this, and someone has designed a trap, using C's 3% shares as bait, and me as a cover-up to lure Sandress into the trap, wishing to achieve a certain goal. Klein looked at the street lamps under the night sky as he sighed ponently. Based on the assumption, if I hadn't discovered the problem tonight and hadn't sent someone to Sandress, the subsequent developments would definitely have me crushed by all kinds of seemingly incriminating evidence, and when the military of the Church of Evernight intervenes, there will undoubtedly be a twist in the evidence, indiscriminating Sandress. During this process, just a tiny misjudgment of Sandress' part will result in him treating Dwayne Dantes as the accomplice and mastermind behind the ploy. He would be a rather intense method in response, hammering the final nail in my coffin. As for who the mastermind was and the true goals, Klein had no idea. All he could do was confirm that Ma'am Mary likely wasn't aware of the truth. She was only used during her anxiousness to prevent her control over the coin company. In short, she wasn't qualified to be deeply involved in the mastermind ploy. Environment protection, new party, Conservative Party, bankers, acquisition, framing, one word after another surfaced in Klein's mind, seemingly allowing him to see through the present calm in Backland. He saw the dangerous stirrings that were hidden beneath the surface. They existed for a long time and hadn't been quelled because of the Great Smog. It was even possible that it was just an extension of the tragedy. When all these meshed together, mixed with the tense international environment, Klein suddenly thought of a word: revolution. In the second, Klein seemed to catch a whiff of the impending storms. Together with the prophecy of an apocalypse, I wonder how much chaos and madness is brewing in secret. Currently, the main goal is to start from the military and investigate the truth behind Great Smog of Backland. If we're to get caught in the maelstrom, there's a high chance I'll get involved in unnecessary trouble. Perhaps it might expose my sequence powers, preventing me from continuing my act as Dwayne Dantes. Klein retracted his gaze, having made up his decision. It was to quickly extract himself from the matter. As for Sandress' safety, it wasn't too worried. First, the former had the Conservative Party backing him, and he has his own faction with him on alert. It would be difficult for him to suffer any further harm. Second, Klein didn't have any deep ties with him, thus providing a warning. He has already spoken volumes about his character. As for the truth behind C's death, he has no right to carry out an investigation. All he could do was trust in the Nighthawk's rich experience in myriad of means to have a chance of finding the real clues. How should I extricate myself. As long as the shares are with me, it implies that I ultimately remain center stage. Get men married to acquire it ahead of time? That will be very difficult. She likely doesn't have the funds. Sell it to Sandress. This will violate the contract. Amidst Klein's fury of thoughts, he gradually had an idea. His facial muscles twitched a little for some baffling reason before he relaxed. This was because what he wanted to do was something he had planned on doing, but lacked the ability to do so. Furthermore, it would also benefit him from establishing his image, battering him in chances of entering high society. In the room adjacent to the balcony, Shio and Fours were observing the streets and garden. One of them was looking at the crimson moon while half hidden behind thick clouds. They were prolonged silence. Only when Dwayne Dante's lights were extinguished, Fours turned back to her friend. She said in excitement and clear ponency, "Being a tycoon sure isn't easy. If you were him, you might have gone bankrupt in 3 days and be sent to jail." Shio shot her a glance and said, I can hire a powerful butler and a professional lawyer and a capable business secretary to help me. Forsden continued, putting down as she said with a smile, if I were you, I would change all of it to cash, bonds, and property. I'll use the annual income that brings me about to maintain a decent life. Just as she said that, she saw Shio frown silently. She cast her gaze towards the first floor. What happened? Forrest tensed up. Shio observed a few seconds before saying, my spiritual perception tells me that there's an item or matter related to black magic here appeared. One of the biggest advantages of Sheriff was that when they were close enough, they could sense matter related to evil, chaos, and madness, and weren't screened. Black magic? Fours was considered a senior beyonder, so as wasn't unfamiliar with that. Strictly speaking, anything that didn't pass through the 7 orthodox deities was considered as black magic. It included ritualistic magic and preyed on the secret existence. In a typical sense, black magic referred to the use of flesh and blood, hair, and all kinds of strange items to cast strange spells. It partially involved evil gods, one beyonder, and spiritual maternal uses and the correct symbols and magic labels. Shio nodded heavily and said, yes, I'm on the first floor. I plan on taking a look. Stay here to protect Mr. Dantes. Forrest kept silent for 2 seconds and nodded without wasting any time. Okay. After Shio left the balcony, half-open room, she took out Leimano's travels from a hidden pouch, prepared to immediately take action if anything amiss happens. Elsewhere, Shio nimbly and briskly arrived in the first floor. Following her senses, she arrived outside the room. After confirming that the target was insane, Shio was surprised and her expression gradually darkened. If she didn't remember wrongly, this room likely belonged to Butler Walter, who had hired her. During her moment dazed, the black magic item and matter which triggered the spiritual perception vanished. Calm returned to the room as though nothing abnormal had happened. She hurriedly pressed her ear to the door and carefully listened, confirming that there was a breathing of a human inside. After waiting for a while and seeing that Walter wasn't doing anything else, she returned to the 3rd floor with a look of suspicion. She recounted her findings to her friend and finally said, do we feign ignorance and think of a way to remind Mr. Dantes? Forrest thought and said, perhaps the butler doesn't have any ill intention. Let's keep observing. After deciding on their stance, she hissed in wonder. I have to say that Mr. Dwayne Dantes is a really pitiful person. Not only was he used by others to harm Baron Sandress and get framed, nearly throwing him into jail and losing his reputation, but he also is a butler who researches black magic with an unknown motive. I hope he doesn't lose his life because of that. On the front, he's a helpless commoner. Shio nodded in agreement. If we're unable to determine the butler's intentions after 3 days are over, I can leave a slip for him to warn him. The next morning, Klein glanced at Walter in a normal fashion after having breakfast before leaving home in Richardson. He rode a carriage to St. Samuel Cathedral. After preaching and praying, Klein didn't make any donations. Instead, he directly came to Bishop Electra. Is there something? Although the bishop was under immense stress due to infiltration of Channis Gate, he was still rather friendly when dealing with the faithful. Klein smiled and replied, I've recently been involved in a certain matter and have to come to recognize my true self. Without waiting for Electra to inquire, he continued, I wish to establish a foundation that targets the poor. I hope that they can receive help from the church. I will place the coin company shares I have on hand into this foundation so as to kickstart the initiative using all the funds obtained from the contract. Electra was nearly stupefied by what he heard because it was definitely a sizable sum. Although it wasn't public knowledge how much Dwayne Dantes spent on acquiring the 3% shares, just from the relevant source of information, it was estimated to be over £10,000. Furthermore, the future returns were nothing to scoff at. Back then, Mary had been pursued by many men in status who wanted the wealth of range of tens of thousands of pounds. Therefore, for Dwayne Dantes to suddenly donate more than £10,000 was definitely considered a generous move. In the whole of the Church of Evernight, apart from the donations from the deceased wills, there were only a handful of one-time donations that exceeded this amount. This was an act that deserved all kind of praise, Electra said from the bottom of his heart. However, I have the obligation to remind you that you shouldn't do something that exceeds your reach. Klein smiled and replied, "This isn't a small sum of money for me as well, but it is acceptable. I wouldn't affect my life and business." Electra's smile gradually turned warm as he said with a nod, "The goddess will definitely watch you." Upon hearing this blessing, Klein's expression nearly froze. Electra continued, "I will report the matter to His Grace and try to organize a charity party for this foundation. When the time comes, I will invite the goddess faithful from different denominations. They will include powerful aristocrats and their families. Let's see if there are more people who are willing to participate." He knew very well that Dwayne Dantes was attempting to enter high society, therefore he deliberately made a mention of powerful aristocrats. Chapter 859. Oh. Bro, I'm still not over the last batch that we had. Why do they gotta be new? Yeah, this will be the final chapter. We'll stop after this. And then it'll be on chapter 860 and start from there. I'm not complaining about Goat Lee. I'm just like, mushrooms. In the bottom of the chair of the future where it was pitch black, Frankly... Oh, it is a Frankly chapter! Yes! Lit a candle which illuminated the table covered with flesh, mushrooms, wheat, and fish. Okay. He casually pushed the items away and cleared out a space that was just enough to accommodate a piece of paper. Right on the heels of that, he spread out a piece of paper, picked up a fountain pen, and wrote the excited exclamation, My dear friend Garamond Sparrow, I'm delighted to know that you found the dry mushrooms to be pretty good. Perhaps it's more useful than I imagined it to be. When I'm free, I'll take another look at them. They were not good for what you thought they were, babe. We gotta, maybe take a step back here. As I've been fully focused on both body and mind in the experiment you mentioned, I've already stopped all other creations. Most of the mushrooms have been burned away by Nina, leaving me with the last 3. I hope it will be of help to you. Placed together with them are the latest products. One of them is a type of mushroom that grows by feeding on flesh and blood. They have 3 breeds. The first is crossbreed with wheat that can be ground into mushroom powder that can be used to make bread. Another has the characteristic of being mixed with milk, allowing milk to draw from them. The last has been crossbred with fish. They come with a refreshing taste, and it has a thick, meaty texture. The things to take note of is that they are absolutely not to be eaten raw. They will need to be cooked in 90-degree hot water for at least 5 minutes, so to kill any living characteristics. Otherwise, regardless of what it turns into, it will absorb the flesh and blood around it, including human organs. Okay. Nice. Another point is unable to distinguish between normal flesh and monster flesh, nor can I deal with the latter property. They will accumulate with the corresponding toxicities of madness. I think they are experienced different mutations because of the different types of monster flesh, producing different kinds of danger. However, I wasn't able to verify that because of the lack of sufficient numbers of monster corpses. If they were obtained, one will adventuring. Please mail me one. I need a tiny amount. As for other problems that might exist, I'm not sure either. It's still a prototype, preventing further attempts and observations. I wish you all the best and have a bountiful time adventuring. Sincerely, your friend, Frank Lee. Love, Frank Lee. After putting down the fountain pen, Frank read his reply in its entirety before folding it to satisfaction. He found a gold coin and placed it over the letter. He quickly set up the messenger summoning ritual in preparation to chant the incantation. At this moment, he subconsciously surveyed his area surrounding was stunned. Then frankly moved to a nearby pile of soil out on the door. In Empress Burrow, the opulent villa of Earl Hall, Audrey was hiding in a room, observing a glass bottle in her hand. In the bottle was a translucent, colorless, sticky liquid. It was like a mirror when still completely reflective everything within its vicinity. When undulation happens, a very thin whirlpool will start spinning beneath the surface. This was none other than the hypnotist potion, which she had just successfully concocted. Bro, she's advancing? Audrey had already digested her psychiatrist potion and planned on advancing to sequence 6. Let's go! Before Backland Psychology Alchemist contacted her. After using Placid to quell her mental state, Audrey gently bit down on her lip, raised the glass bottle, and downed the potion. Let's go! Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go! After a brief chill, she suddenly felt her mind seem to explode. Her body also seemed to be contaminated as it turned somewhere incorporeal. At that moment, her soul body, astral projection, and ether body were being absorbed and assimilated by her body and heart and mind. Her entire person was like an amalgamation of pure thoughts that began churning. She left her boundless sea of collective subconscious, which connected all living creatures, and she sensed the spirituality sky that stood constant. Having experienced the sense of alarm she received during her psychiatrist mansion, Audrey didn't panic. She ultimately maintained her sliver of lucidity and curbed her instinct's urge to fuse into the sea. She allowed her consciousness to spread out in all directions before contacting her rubber band. After all unknown period of time, she finally found her inner self. She saw back of her hand had covered in dense film, golden scales, and saw that her hair on her shoulders had turned luxuriant and heavy, as though they were really made of gold. After these abnormalities receded, Audrey quickly recovered. However, she looked into the mirror. She found her green eyes appear clear, but deep down in the strange bottomless whirlpool, it made it difficult for others to stiff their gaze away from them, easily drowning with them. This is a sign of dispersing spirituality that has yet to be fully converged. Audrey slowed, eased her brown as she smiled turned bright. I know. I asked if you guys wanted more emojis. Let me know. I'll do a little Audrey one. We could do a little Cameron Sparrow one. Oh, I guess we kind of already have like a Cameron Sparrow one, but we could do another one. We could do a Roselle one. She looked at herself in the mirror and nodded gently, finding her. We could do a Leonard one. We could do a Klein one. We could do a Leo Klein one. That's all I'm saying. Audrey, you are already sequence 6. After she calmed her emotions, she seriously inspected herself to determine her new beyond her powers and the qualitative changes. Frank Lee one. So many options. After some work, Audrey came to the rough understanding of the situation. First, her constitution had received a significant enhancement. Be it her strength or agility, it had exceeded an ordinary person. She could also form a layer of scales over her skin, largely resisting and reducing any damage. Second, I know, we should get a Frankly one. Where was I? Made her target focus on something else. Audrey can open the door to their body and mind, of heart and mind, and directly alter their conscious and affect their subconscious. This way, the target wouldn't notice that they were abiding by her arrangements, taking actions that didn't match their true intentions. Of course, if Audrey's arrangements directly harmed the target's life or something her subconsciously placed great importance to, then the target would produce an intense resistance, causing the hypnosis to fail. In addition, if the target had a strong soul and firm body and mind, they would be able to resist the hypnosis in certain extents. Third, battle hypnotism. Audrey could forcefully hypnotize the enemy, making them do something abnormal, such as attacking their companions to avoid her. The hypnotist, however, such hypnosis only lasts for short periods of time. The target would quickly snap awake and sense the problems. Similarly, it was unable to harm the target's life and make the enemy commit suicide. Oh, okay. Fourth was psychology inevitability, with one's control of the target's body, of heart and mind, allowing oneself to remain the blind spot of one's consciousness. She could achieve the effect of invisibility despite someone standing in front of her without being able to sense her. Very impressive. My only regret is that I still lack beyond her powers that can launch direct attacks. Audrey puffed her chest in an indiscernible manner as she tried hard to converge her spirituality and make her eyes less intoxicating. After mostly eliminating her abnormalities, she opened the door and let Susie in. With the leap of her golden retriever, she began familiarizing herself with her new beyonder powers. Before long, her lady's maid, Annie, knocked on the door and entered with an invitation letter in hand. My lady, the church will be organizing a charity party on Saturday night for the newly established bursary foundation that's targeting the poor. They have invited you. Audrey didn't directly agree as she asked, did they invite my parents? Yes, they also invited as well as Lord Hibbert, Annie replied honestly. Audrey nodded and said with a smile, tell the church that I'll be participating. Also, figure out the exact situation with the charity foundation so that they can better decide on the amount to donate. In the evening, in the Inta Serenzo restaurant, this palace is truly dazzling. It's much prettier than the living room and activity rooms of many nobles. Forbes looked around as though she was here to gather materials. Although she had participated in many noble organizations, literary saloons, she had always visited them in their residence, not such top-tier end restaurants. Shio grabbed her coarse blonde hair. This is a style of Intis. It's very different from us. It might look pretty, but it lacks substance. How does it lack substance? Look at all those famous oil paintings and sculptures, Forrest deliberately retorted. During this process, she suppressed her voice as they hadn't entered the main door. As she spoke, she found the private room mentioned by Walter. Forrest directly used door opening and pulled Shio in. They hid inside the pantry cupboard and waited for their target of protection, Dwayne Dantes, and his guests to arrive. How much do you think the 3% shares of Coin Company is worth? Bored, Forrest casually asked. In the morning, she had entered St. Samuel Cathedral with Shio to provide protection while saying prayer. Shio hesitated and said, at least several £1,000s. The bishop seemed to place a great deal of importance on the matter. How rich, donating thousands of pounds just like that. Why doesn't he save poor people like us? Forrest said poignantly as in a joking manner. At this moment, the door to the room opened. Dwayne Dantes and Match's family walked in and took their seats. The waiters also started rustling around. Shio and Forrest didn't speak further as they eavesdropped on the chit-chat outside as they observed the surrounding situations from time to time. Their nose would twitch because of the food's fragrance. Suddenly, Shio frowned as though she had sensed something before quickly easing her brows as though nothing had happened. What's wrong? Forrest leaned in towards her friend's ear and whispered. Shio shook her head. Nothing. I was uptight, causing me to overreact. At that moment, Klein put down his fork and knife, glancing to the side with a normal expression. In his eyes, which were a spirit vision activated, a blonde, red-eyed head appeared out of the void. In its mouth was a thick letter. Klein frantically caught the scent of milk, wheat, and fish. The corners of the mouth twitched as he secretly reached out his left hand and grabbed the letter, and sitting in the other 3 seats, Matt, Triana, and Hazel didn't notice anything. Klein stifled the letter into his pocket without anyone noticing as the waiter walked to the pantry serving new dish to the 4 customers. Although the dishes, 2 of them were burnt fried mushrooms. Upon seeing the scene, Klein silently felt disgusted. His expression turned odd as his left palm that remained in his pocket trembled. And then we're on chapter 860. So we'll stop here. Thanks so much for joining. As always, such a fun time. Loved it so much. No stream tomorrow. Oh! No stream on Monday either. So no stream until Wednesday. Sorry. We won't be able to do stream on Monday. Heads up. So no stream until Wednesday. I know, I gotta lock in. But other than that, I will see you guys on Wednesday. I'll give you a break. From me for a few days. It'll be nice. I'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you so much for joining again, as always. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hope you have a wonderful night, and bye bye.